Regular City Council meeting for Monday, June 24th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holly, will you call the roll? Elton? Here. Bizzard? Bellinger?
Here.
Wise?
Here.
Rhines?
Here.
Delroy? Here. I did receive a call from Councilman Bizzard. He was actually on his way back from picking up his daughter at Detroit Metro Airport, and I told him that it was such a short agenda. Please don't rush on our account. Get home safely. So he may arrive a little bit late, but as of right now, I don't anticipate him being here.
So would you like a motion to excuse
If
him?
you'd like
just
to,
in
yes,
case?
yes.
Motion to excuse Mr. Bizzard for
All
this
right.
evening.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda for this evening unless anybody has any changes that they would like to make.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have time for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come forward? And if so, state your name and your address. Okay. If you could come forward to the podium, that way our videographer can capture you.
Yeah, I'm Robert Wygan on East Grand River and Mullet Street. And I wondered what kind of a decision they made on that sidewalk.
That is one of our agenda items this evening, so if you stick around when we get to our action items, you're gonna find out.
Okay.
So we will be discussing it this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Adam Spina, I'm the superintendent of the school system here in Williamston. And I'm just going around throughout the summer trying to talk with as many groups as I can, just kind of give you a quick update on how the school year went. And of course, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. But just a few highlights from this past year. We started off with the good fortune of having the support of the community with passing a revised sinking fund. And I'll connect on some of the things that that's going to lead to this summer here in a little bit. So that got us off to a good start, and as you know, the sinking fund, one of the big pieces of that was enhancing the physical security of our district. A few months after that, we were notified that we were awarded the FY18 State Police School Safety Grant, which gave us well over $100,000, which we're also going to be investing in physical security upgrades this summer. I believe the council is aware that Williamston schools for a long time have really been kind of on the breaking point financially. And over the last 2 years, I think we've been able to put some things in place to kind of get us on sound financial footing. To kind of put that in where we're coming from, so 3 years ago we had a fund balance of about $175,000. So it was just about 1% of our annual expenditures. So we were a leaky roof from going under. Now we've got our fund balance up in the last 2 years up to 6.9%. It's about $1.3 million. And we're looking to add about another %. So I'm hoping if everything goes well next year, we'll be at just about 8%. And the point of that is not to have a big fund balance, just to say we have a big fund balance, but it's there as a contingency in case the state goes through difficult economic times again, or we need to draw from that for a variety of potential reasons. The district was named to a number of top district awards, both at the national and state level. I won't go through all of those, but the one we continue to be really proud of is for the second straight year. The Williamston High School was named the top school of any kind in mid-Michigan. And so we're back-to-back years, and of course we're hoping that we can make that a trend next year. We'll go for number 3. District was also one of 10 districts in the state of Michigan to be awarded the SETSIG MASB Education Excellence Award. It also came with a grant. And that was primarily given to the district for its K-12 STEAM initiative, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And as part of that, we're also getting a road sign, and that'll go up on district property hopefully sometime this summer. And then finally, one of the things that I think is most significant long-term is we're the fastest growing district in Ingham County. The district grew by 3% this year. There are only 5 districts in Ingham County that actually have a positive growth in terms of its student population. So that's good news for the district long term. If you look at our elementary and preschool programs, they're packed. I mean, there's literally no room right now at the elementary campus, and that's a good thing long term for the district. A couple other things on our website. We've published this year over 130 good news stories, and so if you're looking to kind of see a year in review, different things that have gone on, feel free to visit gowcs.net, and there's a lot of other additional information there. And then finally, just to highlight some things that are happening this summer, we have about $900,000 in renovations funded by a variety of different things, to include the sinking fund, the safety grant. We've also been very appreciative to have several large donations come through to support some of the initiatives that we're putting forth this summer. And also in keeping with our the bettering of our financial situation, we're actually able to take some dollars we haven't had previously and reinvest that into our facilities. And so there's going to be some really nice things for the kids, some surprises when they come back. But there's also a lot of safety upgrades. So we're building a new secure entrance to the high school. We're going to have a proximity key card reader system that's linked to our Wi-Fi, and we'll be able to add to and different features over the next several years on the exterior of all of our buildings. We've already put in the 3M shatter-resistant glass film in all our glass entranceways. I'm sure you've already seen the bollards that have gone in across all the different campuses. New security cameras, live feed footage, in some buildings in multiple locations that can be monitored throughout the day. And just a variety of other things. Like in our preschool and Explore Elementary, we're going to be taking out all the old wood classroom doors, putting in solid steel core doors. We're running a door barrier pilot in one of our buildings. So a lot of safety upgrades, and again, those are made possible through the grant and also through the sinking fund. And then finally, again, one more finally, the district has really had a huge turnover over the last 2 years. We've replaced 100% of our administrative staff and roughly 35% of our teaching staff. The good news is that I think we're bringing in some really excellent people that are really pushing the district forward. A lot of them have big shoes to fill, but really positive about where the district's going, and I think we've got a strong future ahead of us. So, quick summary. If there's any questions I can address, I'd be happy to do so.
Any questions for Adam? Thank you so much. What do you anticipate your student growth for the next school year?
Well, it's hard to say. So we added the same number, pretty much the same number of school choice students we did last year. And then now we're kind of in what's called the non-resident section. So this is for families who have missed the school choice window or decide where they'd like to take their children later in the summer. And last year we added a lot of kids through that process, so we're just going to kind of monitor that. We've already met our enrollment target, so now every student we add is just above and beyond that. So we'll see how the rest of the summer goes, but I think we're in good shape.
And when you said that you're at capacity at the elementary school level, what does that mean for your future growth?
Well, because we went through about 10 years of decreasing enrollment, unfortunately, there's plenty of room at the middle and high school. So as the students move up, we're already planning ahead. We added classroom space at our middle school last year in kind of preparation for those students. And so we're in good shape. As those larger cohorts move up through the system, I think we definitely have a home for them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'm moving forward then with council meeting minutes of June 10th, 2019. I would actually like to offer up a correction. I actually reviewed the YouTube video, and it looks like in here we marked Jeff absent. However, we did have a motion by Councilman Bizzard to excuse his absence, and then it was, I believe, properly seconded. Sandy and Noah both said support at the same time, so if we could make that correction.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and Noah, accounts payable for this evening.
We didn't have too many bills to review this time, but I would like to make a motion to approve checks 71879 through 71942 in the total amount of $80,020.80.
Question.
Yes.
And this is for Scott probably. The wastewater treatment plant sludge haul for $5,071.49. Is that related to the whole nation issue at all?
Some of that is Old Nation. That's part of our normal sludge haul. It's not a complete process. They only got enough to get us by for a short period of time, and they're due to get more sludge haul. The rate at which sludge is coming has been greater, due in part to the Old Nation impact.
Are we at any, I know we had this as a discussion about Old Nation reimbursing the city for the sludge haul. Are we anywhere with that process at all?
Well, we have, starting at the beginning of this year, instead of billing them for direct costs like that, there is in our rate structure a surcharge for high-strength waste. And so we've gone into that transition with them in the billings, and they've been billed.
Okay.
They are continuing to be billed on each period basis, based on the strength of their waste from testing that's being done of the waste stream, averaged over 3 months, times the amount of water and sewage use.
Very good, thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that then. Where are they at in that process of coming up with their solution? I know they were closed for renovations. I didn't know if that had anything to do with it, so.
That's part of it. Their solution is many months in the works.
Okay.
They have provided to us some of the preliminary concepts of how they're going to do the pretreatment process, and we've been meeting and communicating with them on a pretty regular basis.
Okay, good.
So they're working very hard. They're
Good.
investing a significant amount of money in
Okay.
the pretreatment process.
Excellent. Keep us posted as it continues to move forward.
So we did have a motion and a second.
Yep. And we had our question answered, so Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Wise?
Yes.
Rhines?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Welton?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
All right, we have a very short action items list, and our very first action item for this evening is the appointment of a city council member for a term to expire 11/30/2020. So I will entertain a motion from my council members regarding a nomination.
I make a motion to appoint Gene Smith to the city council for a term to expire 11/30/20.
And I'll support it.
All right, thank you. Any discussion or any questions for the candidate that happens to be here? All right, Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Rhines?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Welton?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Smith. We look forward to having you, once you're sworn in, at our next council meeting.
Thank you, look forward to it.
All right.
Speech. No.
You're right. What else can you tell us that you didn't tell us last time? But we're excited, thank you. It helps round out our council seats here.
enough, we even have cops here.
I know, right? I don't think they can form a quorum, so we're good.
Maybe help carry guns and tasers.
Right. All right, so our second item, action item for this evening is the Mullet Street Western Sidewalk and Quarry. I'll go ahead and turn over to you.
Sure, so this action item is in response to the last council meeting where we had 3 homeowners stop in and raise some concerns about the project that's going on Mullet Street. As everybody's aware, the project calls for the inclusion of a sidewalk on both sides of that road. Currently, the western side, where there's 3 homes that either have a front yard that faces it or a side yard, there's not a sidewalk there. And so I think it's fair to say they came to council seeking another look at that. And per council's direction, myself and Scott met with the 3 homeowners a couple weeks ago after the council meeting to take a look at both where everything was proposed in real time as opposed to on a piece of paper. So we had the tape measure out and indicating where the sidewalk would be in relation to the property lines that were staked out there. So we really talked about 2 options. One was to try to find out if there was some room to maneuver the sidewalk and get it away from the proximity to the houses there and the driveways. And the second was to not have a sidewalk, period. And so as we looked at the field measurements and the plans, in the memo I wrote, that we think that there's about a 2 to 3 foot wiggle room. And the reason for the 2 to 3 is that there's some issues when the sidewalk then connects at the corners. And I can have Scott explain that a little bit more if desired. But you have to basically approach it at right angles. And so if you get it a little bit too far out, then you lose that ability to do that at the 2 corners of Grand River and Middle Street. So, but with 2 to 3 feet, at 2 feet, that would put about 5 feet between the right-of-way line and the start of the sidewalk. 3 feet would obviously put 6 feet. The reason we wouldn't go any further is because of the issue at the 2 corners, as well as wanting to leave some space for snow to go when you come down and plow, and then also from the sidewalks. So we went over the options with the residents. I think, it's probably not a surprise to say that I think all three would be desirous of no sidewalk, based on the concerns about, primarily, I think, the driveways and the ability to park multiple cars there without encroaching on the sidewalk issue there. So essentially what we've done is present council with, the various pieces of information, prepared to answer any questions. Staff cannot remove a sidewalk, staff can adjust the design. So in our minds, the complete streets policy comes into play similar to what it did earlier this year. And our sense is that when we build a new street or we do a reconstruction, in support of the master plan goals and that complete streets policy, we're to have sidewalks on both sides of the street. So if that's the direction council wants to go, you would have to do a motion to exclude that on the western side. Otherwise, we would be prepared to maneuver it a bit more into the right-of-way to provide that extra 2 to 3 feet.
I want to thank you guys for taking the time to go over and meet with the residents and really walk through it and hear their concerns. And right off the bat, my feeling is that we need to review the complete streets policy. I don't know when it was written. I know it was probably several councils ago. And I think with some of our very small streets, Wint, for one, there's no sidewalk on either side, or Greenfield or the West River side and stuff. If those streets were to undergo renovation or whatever, and we tried to do that with the Complete Streets program, I think we're gonna face those types of situations when it's a small street and small parcels. So I really appreciate the memo that you put together and the requested action. Do we have questions for Corey and Scott? Yes, yes ma'am.
I have walked Mullet 1,000 million times because it's right around the corner from me. I've never seen anybody use the sidewalk that's there. They always just use the road. They never use that sidewalk. To put a sidewalk on the other side, I think is absolute ludicrous. That's like coming in onto Mill Street.
Right.
And putting, because we only have the one sidewalk. Nobody ever uses that sidewalk. Right down there, they go down the middle of the street. I mean, they don't use it. I think it's ludicrous. I'm sorry. I don't think we need to put another sidewalk. Upset these people when they don't want the dumb thing anyway. And that's my opinion.
And we do have one sidewalk currently on that street, correct? It would be on the east side. So there is safe passage. If somebody was going down Middle, they could cross Mullet to the other sidewalk, come back up to Grand River, or vice versa. Grand River, cross over Mullet, and go down that sidewalk, so.
I agree with Tammy in talking about looking at the complete streets policy. I think it's a good policy where we can apply it, but we're not a new community. We have some of these houses that were built well before setbacks were a thing, and especially talking about, there's a house on Wint that faces both Wint and Williams, which has no sidewalk on either side. If we go through, that gentleman will lose a large portion of his yard with 2 new sidewalks, and I'm sure there's other areas of town that have similar situations. Where we can do it, and it's probably 80–85% of the time, we should do it, but we need to have a way to apply it with some common sense.
Thank you both. Noah?
Corey, my understanding, if we don't put it in, it could be a cost savings of anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 that could be used for contingency, is that correct?
I don't know the exact cost for savings, but I mean, it would produce a savings.
Okay, but that could be used for contingencies if something else happened underneath or whatever you need it for in that project.
Yeah, it would be out of the major streets fund, likely, so it would have to apply to something road or sidewalk, curb and gutter related, as opposed to water sewer.
Okay, thank you.
What would be the time that you would want to put that sidewalk in, Scott? Is it during the time that you have that monstrosity set up at the end of Mullet, or what? Or is it going to be the same time you're working on that, Or is it a different time you wanna put in that sidewalk? When do you wanna put it in?
This, well, the utility construction happens first. They're doing water main on Mullet right now. Then, once the water main's done and all the people on, Middle, all the people in Middle are tied into the water system, they will then go over to Mullet, do the sanitary sewer over there, put in new leads to the houses, get that operational. After that, road construction is gonna be going on simultaneously too. They're gonna put curbs and gutter and that type of thing in. The sidewalk goes in after the curbing's in usually, but it's all part of the same project, but it's towards the latter part of the project. Does that answer your question?
So kind of towards the end, it will happen.
Yeah, well, I just.
Jeff, did you have some comments too? Dan, Jeff?
Are you gonna make a motion?
I was gonna make a motion.
Okay.
Can I ask one thing?
Yeah.
I see Mr. Wygant, you're here, correct? You live on Mullet Street, sir?
Pardon?
You live on Mullet Street?
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to see done? A setback of 2 to 3 feet or no sidewalk?
Either no sidewalk or move it 10 foot away from where they want to move it. I've got 27 feet of blacktop driveway they're gonna take away from me. I can't even park my truck without parking it half on the sidewalk. And I'm losing a nice blue spruce tree right beside the sidewalk. If they put the sidewalk in, it'll go right through the middle of my tree. And a red maple out in my front of in my side yard.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to exempt the west side of Mullet Street from the Complete Streets program by removing the sidewalk.
Support.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Holly?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Thank you for all of the discussion, all the good,
Thank you.
you're welcome, you're welcome. You know, we do value our residents and when these types of situations come up, we appreciate hearing your voices and letting us know. And I appreciate the hard work that our staff put in by going over there and looking at that and trying to figure out how we can make this work. And so I
See, they made a mistake 100 years ago and put the road in the wrong place.
Right, so
All
let's blame it on
So I've
them.
been taking care of 10 foot of the city's property for 50 years.
Right, well,
They
we
ain't gonna give
appreciate
me a nickel
that.
for that.
I know,
But they wanna come over and take that, plus they wanna take the rest of my yard with sidewalk.
right.
Well, now you don't
Well,
have to worry
Just
about it.
didn't make sense.
Well, it looks like we took care of that potential
Okay.
problem, so we appreciate you being here this evening.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes our action items for this evening. We did not receive anything, or there's nothing on our agenda for discussion items. We did receive some correspondence regarding the Ingham County Treasurer foreclosed property list. I want to make sure, because I Googled the address, is this the pawn shop?
It is.
It is, okay. And we don't have an interest in,
We,
Okay.
staff would not recommend.
Okay.
getting that.
all right. I appreciate that. So, so if you all read through your packet, we don't have an interest in that, so it looks like it'll go to Ingham County Land Bank at some point, possibly,
It'll be put up for auction
auction first.
and so it will be available to bidders.
Okay,
If it does not sell, my understanding is that there's a second auction, and if it does not sell there, then it goes to land bank.
okay. All right. Well, if you hear anything in the future as this progresses forward, I mean, I'm sure we'd probably like to know what's going to happen to that parcel.
That's some commercial.
It is, yep. Way back in the day, it was a gas station, and then it was a party store, now a pawn shop, now empty. So, there you go.
But they make it into a nice restaurant like Taco Bell.
Tacos would be fantastic, Sandy. That is. All right, now we'll just move right ahead. Department head reports. Corey, as always, great memo, appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for Corey, or would you like to expand on anything that you wrote for us?
Yeah, just want to make you aware of a couple notices that have gone out. So it was in the memo that we just recently sent out a mass mailing to the community about our upcoming utility billing changes. So that's being driven by the change from bi-monthly billing to monthly billing. So every customer got a packet, and I think they started landing in mailboxes late last week. One thing I did want to share with council is in that we included a sign-up sheet for ACH payments and emailed bills. And we have had a lot of people submitting those. So, you know, one of our thoughts was by getting the word out about those two things, particularly the email bills, you know, we might be able to produce some cost savings that will eat it, or that will help with the additional postage for monthly billing. And that has come true already, so. I think for the most part, feedback on the change has been positive or neutral. You know,
Okay.
just people not caring either way.
Okay.
So that's been positive. Second notice that went out is our DDA recommended the DDA plan to city council. You set a public hearing for that on July 8th. As part of that, we have to send notices to every property owner of record in the downtown district. So those went out last week, and we've had a few people stop in wondering what that's all about. So we may have some folks at the July 8th meeting if, you know, we can't satisfy their questions about the parking lot project. So that's been positive. And then finally, this is gonna be the second year of the property card review for the assessors. So last year, they started with 20% of the community where they actually do field inspections, and it's a process that is recommended by the state of Michigan through what's called their Audit of Minimum Assessing Requirements, or AMAR. So they want the city to basically have a schedule for being out there and checking that our records match what's actually in the field. And so sometimes that can catch things that may have been built without a permit, because usually that's how we check if there's been any additions to a property. So those notices also went out last week to about 20% of our parcels. There's not one area of town that it's concentrated in. What they do is, in assessing, they base a lot of things on neighborhoods. So for example, the neighborhood where like Georgia and Lloyd and Wallace, that is a neighborhood that got notices. The Williams Street area, High Street, and a couple other alike neighborhoods have gotten those notices. So a lot of communications going out, just wanted everybody to be aware of that. And, you know, if you get any questions, please let us know.
What happens if you find out that they did build something without getting a permit? I mean, are you gonna tell them with a big fine, or what happens?
Typically, what they'll do is they'll just adjust the card. So if, let's say, you know, 7 years ago, you put in a deck without a permit, they'll simply update the dimensions of the deck. You know, I can't say for certain how we would handle that if it was something more recently, but a lot of times, what we found and what a lot of other communities have dealt with is these reviews weren't always getting done, and so sometimes it could have been 15 years before there was an actual field inspection of a property. So when the assessors are out there, they wear a name badge identifying who they are, but you know, sometimes that can get people a little concerned if they see somebody poking around.
Did they come in the house?
They do not.
No, one long time ago, they actually came in the house and they were looking, you know.
No, that is not, no, they will not be in the house at all. So.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Okay, good.
Well, keep us abreast of that as well. If we have residents, you know, that say, hey, what's happening and how's this affecting us? We definitely would like to know, you know, what type of feedback we get from that as well.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions for Corey, or? All right, Corey, thank you very much. Chief?
Nothing to report.
All right, well, that's one is easy. And then we also did receive in our packet, it looks like we've got some permits being pulled. AGS gave us their report, so it looks like there's some things starting to happen. You know, it's good weather for construction and upgrades to homes and commercial properties as well. So if you ever have any questions regarding what's on an AGS report, we can certainly pass that along to Corey and have Corey reach out to AGS for us and get those answers. Committee reports, anybody want to report on the board that they sit on right now?
We had a ZBA meeting for June. It was Williamston Lakes requesting a fence height variance, going from a 3-foot high fence to a 4-foot high fence to try and keep folks out of the large pond of Williamston Lakes, and it sailed through. It was pretty
What were they
rough.
trying to keep out of the pond?
It was to try, right now, they were only allowed to have a 3-foot high fence
Right,
because it was
yeah.
considered up against Grand River and the road front. So and they wanted to have a little bit higher fence so that it would provide a little better barrier in case people wanted to climb it to get into the pond out
Oh,
in
to the
front there.
pond, okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that update. Anyone else?
The NISA board called a special meeting Friday evening, reference billing. And as a result of that, they moved forward with getting a contractor for the billing, which will be a positive for the NISA board in a big way, I believe. And the fire code that Chief Yant's been working on has been moving forward nicely. And they've made a lot of progress on that. So I appreciate the chief's work, Chief Yans, and the NISA board as a whole that have really put a lot of work into it.
Good.
And I'm very, have a very positive feeling about that.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. With that being said, we have another opportunity for audience participation.
I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. All right, council member comments. I will start down with Mr. Bellinger.
I'd just like to say a positive footnote for all the support from all the groups such as the Eagles, the Quanians, everybody that was involved in Red Cedar Jubilee, whether they were picking up trash or they were putting up tents or helping with whatever. This community is so supportive with each group. It's great to see it. Again, compliments to Sandy and her leadership for Red Cedar Jubilee.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Rhines.
Like to echo Noel with that, you know, Jubilee is a great event, and one of the things that's great about it is all the main events that are put on are great fun for the community, but they're also large fundraisers for the nonprofits in the community. So we get a chance to have a lot of fun and then raise a lot of money for the nonprofits, and that's something that is unique about Jubilee, and I love every year. And things went really well. We had a couple weather days, but then we had a couple really nice weather days, and I think things went really well, and everybody did a good job. Thank you, Sandy.
So, Miss Jubilee Queen herself, Sandy.
Nothing.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you're getting a lot of good accolades from everybody. I want to just give compliments to how quickly everybody was able to put out notices on those weather days, because we had the possibility of inclement weather. So very quickly they were able to reschedule the kids' parade. They were able to move music and or whatever that
That
evening.
is scary to move
Yes.
that kids' day parade.
Yes.
I was on the phone with Darren Rockwell,
Yeah.
my old friend there.
Yes.
Is it moving in? Is it moving
Right.
in? Because, you know, it just was hitting all of a sudden, hit and miss.
Yep.
And I didn't want those little kids out in the rain.
Right,
So
no.
I did cancel it, but I did get a lot of thank yous from
Yeah.
the mothers, you know, that I did cancel it.
Well, and I think too, what's really great is the power of social media. Because as soon as I saw it, I shared it. I know you guys shared it. And then I saw that other service organizations were sharing it. So everybody was all on the right page
And we
of making sure.
rescheduled it for Friday,
Yes.
and it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So it was worked out.
Downtown was full of sidewalk sales. Everything was busy, busy, busy. So hats off to you, Sandy, for another successful year. Mr. Weiss.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Okay, well, with that then, I'm going to call to adjourn this meeting.